What is up, my friends? I'm pumped because we had a chance to talk to Adam over at Padsplit today. When you run any properties or in real estate, you're going to have to get your feet wet and you're going to have to deal with issues that come about.
And I think to your point around the exit is we just want to educate investors, depending on where your market is and depending on what your situation is or the property you have an asset. There are some that fit our model really well and there's some that don't.
Dude, I was slammed, Adam, by people in the comments that are just like, investors like you are taking away housing from everybody else. You're a piece of crap. I don't want anything to do with you. I just unfollowed you. You're a dirty Mexican. Like literally everything you can potentially hear in a YouTube chat box. Somebody called me a dirty Mexican. I don't even have a mustache that I can twirl around yet. And for anybody that has any short-term, mid-term, long-term properties, if you're investing in real estate and you do not have an exit strategy from day one before you buy a property, you're going to want to listen to this episode because we do break down why it's so important to have an exit strategy. And I believe Padsplit is one of the best exit strategies when it comes to, if your property doesn't work out for whatever reason, if you're not making enough money right now, if you're not able to get your property rented the way you want to, this is an easy alternative to getting your place booked. And there is a little bit of work that comes along with it, but it's a way to make cash flow from a property right now, especially if you're underwater, which I see a lot of people that are in that space. So check out this episode. Make sure to listen to it all the way into the end because I do drop some really important information at the end of this episode. And I appreciate you guys for being here. Check this out with Padsplit. What I'm excited about, Adam, is Padsplit. And I don't get excited about too many companies, but I am excited about Padsplit. In fact, when I first heard about you guys about a year and some change ago, then I watched Pace talk about you guys. And then I talked to Pace specifically about you guys because he has a lot of properties that he uses Padsplit with. I then realized, holy smokes, this is a fantastic exit strategy for an investor that is looking to get out of, management, because you guys handle management and you guys are able to, it's basically essentially renting by the room. We can go into detail on this stuff. But Adam, let's break down Padsplit. Let's go into the whole detail about this and let's talk about why it's important for investors to think about Padsplit as being one of the ultimate exit strategies. You cool with that, man?
I'm excited. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. So let's jump in a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into this whole investor in the wrong spot, and then using Padsplit as an exit strategy, which I think is another tool in the toolbox, right?
Another tool in the toolbox. I think that's what we want to pitch. Is there's a lot of different real estate exit tools. We just want to be considered one of those. And frankly, to your point, with rising interest rates, with saturation in the STR market. The midterm rental market that you drive in, I don't know as much about it. I think maybe what it comes down there is just consistency with contracts. And I think what we're really trying to do is just be an exit opportunity that generates a lot of yield, which is working right now in this environment where I have high interest rates, I have short-term rental compression, I just have challenges in the market and I need to think differently. We're able to achieve that yield. So to backtrack, my name's Adam. I lead growth at Padsplit. I have been here for 4 years helping kind of drive this. But prior to Padsplit, I fell into shared housing and real estate investing about 7 years ago. And my buddy and I had purchased a quadplex in Old Fourth Ward area of Atlanta. And we were trying to figure out how to, cash flow this property or kind of de-risk this property. And so what we thought about was, hey, we had these 4 units. Can we add additional rooms and can we rent this out by the room? And we just want to be the cheapest option in the area. And so we did that. We converted these rooms. We started renting them out by the room. We realized that on the aggregate, we were making significantly more. So in this case, 2x what I would have traditionally rented that unit as. But I think the aha for me was we spoke with the tenants and the tenants were super, super excited. They were thrilled. They were happy because of how cheap it was. And my buddy and I are sitting there just how are we making 2x more? You're saying it's cheap. I've never seen this alignment before. And so we were operating in that way for a little bit of time. And that's when I got wind of Padsplit. So Atticus founded Padsplit here in Atlanta. And I essentially just convinced him over a 1.5 year period to hire me because I had it and still do. I just believe this is the future of housing. We think about how, we have a supply shortage. That's really what it is. Supply shortage in every single market that we are in, or in the US at least. And that is what has contributed to affordability issues. We have available space at properties. How do you rent out that underutilized space? It is not a novel concept. I think what makes shared housing difficult is how do I fill rooms and keep them filled? How do I collect now from all these different tenants? How do I have a product that manages room rentals, and how do I have this kind of member to member issue triage? Like those are the three tenets that make this really challenging. And that is what we built Padsplit around and a marketplace around. And so those three things that we're solving around demand aggregation, around collections, around member to member management, and a product to manage co-living, that's what we focused in on. That's where we'll continue to focus in on. And we've been able to attract a lot of hosts. When I joined, we had 300 units on the platform. As of today, this morning, we're about to cross 11,300, and we're looking to double that this year. And I'd like to say that we are providing affordable housing options to this population that is just looking for affordability or looking for cheaper options from an access issue, and then just like a dollar in, like how much it costs to move into a unit. But the reality is, like, our hosts are. And so we built this Airbnb marketplace for room rentals that we're allowing people like Pace, and all these other hosts in all these markets to really go drive their own business and feel confident renting by the room, feel confident getting into the shared housing space, because it is more work, it's challenging. But we've taken those three areas that make co-living challenging, and we've put a lot of effort and solutions and investment and awesome teams around solving those three things. And we've been able to scale from there. So I've been here for 4 years, and I've been blessed to be a part of that kind of movement. And we're in this next iteration of growth, but it's been awesome. And I think to your point around the exit is we just want to educate investors, depending on where your market is and depending on what your situation is or the property you have or the asset. There are some that fit our model really well, and there's some that don't. But the idea is, how do I take underutilized space? How do I create additional rooms out of that space? And I have now a marketplace to go rent those rooms out. And if you think about converting that space to rentable space, I can now 2 to 3x my top line on that property versus traditional long-term rental. So you're able to get multifamily returns or single or short-term rental returns while housing people in your community. And there's a lot of people in your community that need affordable options. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to dive into a couple different things. First off, I didn't even know this dude up until like 3 months ago, and you can call me an idiot for this, but like I put a YouTube video out and I talked about how short-term rentals, like I feel like it's such a great way to build cash flow. Dude, I was slammed, Adam, by people in the comments that are just like, investors like you are taking away housing from everybody else. You're a piece of crap. I don't want anything to do with you. I just unfollowed you. You're a dirty Mexican. Like literally everything you can potentially hear in the YouTube chat box. Somebody called me a dirty Mexican. I don't even have a mustache that I could twirl around yet. So, yeah, dude. So I was pretty hurt on that. I didn't realize there was so many people that hated Airbnbs, like that just didn't like that. So here's my question for you, because this does solve a couple of the problems that I feel like. I'm in California. There's just not enough homes. Like we just passed a law. It's called the SB9 rule in California. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Essentially, if I own a property and I have a big enough lot line, I could build a duplex in my backyard and an ADU and separate those lot lines so that I can potentially have more properties. Because again, California there's not enough property. If you look at the dense population areas, Oakland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, the areas where there's a lot of people here, there's just not enough housing. There's nowhere to build except for up, right? So I think that Padsplit does offer that premium to those folks that are looking to just get a room. And I'm going back to myself, like in my early 20s, and at a certain point in my life, like I needed to get a room. So there's like a huge amount where people can't just go rent an apartment and pay freaking $2,200. Like in Central Valley right now where I live, and I was actually just looking this up, for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or even let's go with 1-bedroom. With just a 1-bedroom property here, we're looking at, I have the numbers next to me right now. We're looking at $1,600 to $1,800 for a 1-bedroom, which is a lot. Like it's a lot of money. Back when I was looking for housing back in the day, dude, that was $700.
Yeah.
15 years ago. So the amount of rent has just increased tremendously. So that problem Padsplit is solving, which I believe affordable housing is essentially solved by that end. Now I'm going to walk you through some scenarios so everybody gets what I'm talking about right now. With Padsplit, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So let's think about this right now. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath, which is the most common property in the United States. I have a family room, that most people don't ever use. And then I have obviously where a kitchen. So what we would essentially do is I'd have those 3 bedrooms, and I would turn that family room. Let's just say I'm just going to use my family room because I'm in a 1,500 square foot home myself. It is 18 by 12. So essentially that could be turned into 2 rooms, right, Adam? Can you walk us through what that process looks like? If I have 3 full bedrooms, I have a kitchen, I have a family room. Let's walk it through for somebody right now that has a 3-2 that's not renting, that they're not able to midterm, they can't short term anymore. It might be in a C neighborhood, something like that. We'll talk about neighborhood class in a minute, but let's walk them through what this would look like.
Yeah, and so 1,500 square feet. I mean, with the dimensions you talked about, I mean, there's a few things that we look at. One of those is there are some code guidelines around rooms and the size of a room. And so that's 80 square feet with the shortest wall being 7 feet. That's I'll defer to the jurisdictions that this is in, but a room is defined in a certain parameters, and so we have to abide by those, or we would suggest that you look at your local code and abide by those. So depending on those dimensions you said, like, can I have 2 rooms? Can I have 1 there? I think it really comes back to what code will allow, and you need 2 points of egress in each room. So so depending on that, what I would do is either turn that living room or family room, can't remember what you said, into 1 room or 2 rooms, or I'd look at a different, and maybe I'd look at some additional space that maybe I can convert into another room that fits those dimensions and egress.
In the kitchen. That's the only other space I have room is a kitchen.
Got it. So in this case, you're looking at maybe just converting that one to like 1 large room, and you can rent that out for a premium, or maybe I convert that into 2 smaller rooms and I rent that out for slightly less, but in the aggregate higher. I mean, I think what we've done really well is we can provide data. We can provide playbooks. We can provide what other hosts have done in the past to maximize their space to generate, obviously 2 to 3x higher yield, but obviously creating affordability. And so in this particular instance, I have 3 rooms. Let's say you convert that family room into 2 additional rooms. Now I have 5 rooms. I don't know what a room would rent for in the areas that you're referring to, but what I'd say is our average. Say it again.
Probably $800. I would say, like, if we have a master with the bathroom, I'm probably looking at $1,200. Just a traditional room is probably $800.
Got it. So you're at $800. Again, maybe you take that larger room and you convert it into, like, you add a bath, and there's a private bath, and that bath obviously takes a lot more investment to add. But let's say I do that, I'm at $4,000 now top line with 5 bedrooms at $800 a piece. 4,000 top line. I don't know what you would have rented that 3-2 out for, maybe 22,
23. And just so you know, I have a $1,500 mortgage payment on that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's what a lot of our hosts are running into, where they're running this math and they're saying, okay, well, does this asset work? Like, I think it does, right? But then you factor in like fees, you factor in occupancy, you factor in collections. Like, that's what our account executive, that's what our tools, that's what our calculators will help walk you through. And you can say, hey, that property I was renting for $2,200 minus all fees, maybe and mortgage and everything, maybe I'm netting $200 to $300 a month, and now all of a sudden I'm netting, $1,500. Like, it's significant. And what we have found is that obviously there's some assets that fit better than others, but let's say that you had a 1,600 square foot house, or 17, and I can add 2 or 3 more bedrooms in that, and so now I have 6, or I have a 7 bedroom. Like, the upside on that, and renting those each out for $800 is obviously more and significant. And so what we really allowed is for hosts to kind of drive their own shared room business. And so you'd use our playbook, use our tools. You can talk with account executives. You can look at different hosts in your market and what they're pricing things at and what their quality is like. And I think what's been awesome about the iteration of Padsplit over the years is now people are treating it a little bit more like Airbnb. People have welcome gifts when people move in. People are really focused on the quality from a picture standpoint, from the room, from amenities, from desks, from lockers, from like all these different things that you can start to build like additional income streams around. And people are booking them, whether that's like TVs, whether that's other things. And so I think like that view, and I'll give a shout out to short-term rentals in this way, is like it's changed the way that people have thought about experiences. And I'm sure in midterm rentals the same. You can furnish things in a good way. and you can generate a lot more income in that regard. So anyway, going back to the playbook, it's like, hey, 3-2, I can add these additional rooms. I rent those rooms out in this marketplace. In aggregate, I'm renting this property that you talked about specifically out for 4,000 top line versus 22. Our collections rate are 97%. Our tenure is not 8 to 9 months, depending on the market that you're in. And we're incentivizing both members and hosts to kind of extend tenure in that way. It's more profitable for everybody in that regard. And so it's really long, what I'll call mid to long-term rentals. It's not this 30, 2-week stay. People are staying for a long time. 25% of each cohort that moves in stays for life, as long as the platform's been on. So 25% of people that come in will stay for 4 years. So it's really like providing housing for people that need it in your market. And the last thing I'll quick point back to is you talked about, an apartment in your area being $2,200. What we have found, $1,800. So $1,600 to $1,800. So if you make if you make $20 an hour, that's roughly $41,000 a year. If you start to do what apartments do with this 3x income to rent ratio plus credit score, you need to make $60,000 to rent that place that you just mentioned. But if I make $20 an hour, I only make $41,000 a year. So it's become this big access piece. And so what we have found is that like it's a large group, 14 million people across the United States, but in general, like there are, I'll point to Atlanta in particular, like 12,000 people a month that go into Google and type in, I need a room for rent. And in every single market, that number is staggering. In Los Angeles, 22,000 people a month. In Phoenix, I think it's 8,000. In Vegas, it's 9,000. In Dallas, it's 10,000. And so it's just like there's so many people that are already asking for this product. And what we're really trying to do is provide a playbook for hosts to take that 3-2, convert it to a 5-2, rent it out on our marketplace, and see sizable exit and income for themselves, but creating affordability or supply for a population that just frankly doesn't have access to housing right now.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And the reason why one of the things that I want to talk about right now is I have a friend, and she has been looking for an apartment. She makes about $75,000 a year in California. Yeah. And Steph, I'm sorry for bringing you up in this conversation, but I'm going to, because we just talked about this. 75,000 a month or a year, and she applied for a bunch of apartments. She's now competing with who makes the most amount of money, she's on her own. So she's now competing with couples that are, they could each make 50K each, and that puts her below. These housing companies or these apartment complexes want to go with the people that have the higher credit score and the max amount of income. So if I'm applying for an apartment, I'm now competing with 10 other people, for that one specific unit, or 2 or 3 or whatever. So I think this leads me to the question of this, and this is a question that I personally have. When you're looking at getting somebody that is in those properties, like I would be very cautious, and this is something that I think that I've thought about, but this is where you guys put me at ease when I talked to Ellis, and then hopefully you could tell everybody about, because we also had another video about having different people in the house that all have different backgrounds, different ethnicities, maybe even male, female. What has that been like? Right now we're speaking to the hosts that are just like, why would I want to put 5 or 6 people into my house when they don't have they're not there to monitor it all the time? Yeah. Can you talk about what you guys actually do and how you're vetting these folks? Can you go into that? Because this is going to help a lot of people. I have a lot of questions about.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the example I gave about someone that's making $20 an hour, and like just doesn't have access. It's like we're focused on a population that essentially is just priced out but makes money. So similar to your friend that makes $75,000 a year, it's troubling that they can't get access to an apartment. And so what we do is we look at 2x income to rent. We look at previous felonies. We look at previous evictions. And what we have found is even looking at those ratios, like we've had incredible amount of success over the past 5 years underwriting with this criteria. And we'll let the data and the fact that we now have 11,300 some units on the platform speak to that it is working. If and so we have high occupancy. People are driving a lot of yield. We have 11,000 units. We have 600 some hosts. Like it is now. I just point to those numbers now of people that have had success with this and our underwriting criteria. most recently, we've also allowed hosts to say yes to each person that moves in, and so if they will have additional criteria they want to look at, they can do that. Um, but so we have that specific underwriting criteria. We look at felonies, we look at evictions, we look at income ratios. We approve a member from a Padsplit membership standpoint, but you as a host approves who moves in. To answer the first question you had around like, hey, I put 5 unknown people together on a property. What I'll speak
It's
to my
Survivor,
own.
dude.
Well, I'll speak to my personal, like when I first did that room rental
Yeah.
7 years ago, we tried to like match everybody up
Right.
by like personality and all these things. And, you know, I,
Horoscope.
yeah, I remember thinking about this in college. Like, I took a little survey to see who I'd pair with a roommate, and like, shocker, it doesn't really work. You know what I mean? Like people are people, and I think it's really hard to use any type of surveys
Just get a
or
bunch of
information to
introverts
better match.
together.
Yeah, and so
Introvert
we've
only.
we've highlighted a few of those things, right? We've
Yeah.
highlighted a few things around like, hey, do you work at night? Are you a certain criteria? But not 100% of members say that they're clean. Like I'm gonna venture that not everybody's clean. So I think everyone kind of puts up a different front. But again, my personal experience with this is we tried to match people, and it turned into a disaster because now like all these people became like friends in this way, and I want to promote camaraderie, and I think that's great, but like it got to the point where they were like banding together and like demanding certain pieces like this tenant large base versus what I have found is by matching people, like people will either get along or not. And when I look and walk through a pad split, people tend to just stay to their room. It is there for like this midterm. It is a stepping stone, right? Like our goal is to graduate people. They save enough money, they can go qualify for an apartment, or they're trying to save up money for a certain period for a certain thing, or maybe they want to stay forever. But I'll let those people make the choice, and I'll let people make the choice of who they want to live with. And so we have found is like going away from matching versus just saying, hey, these are the 4 people that live in this property. You can look at this information and you can decide to book that other room. And what we have found is it's actually reduced the amount of issues that come up. But again, like people are people. We have never solved and will never solve the people problem. I think we can help mitigate it. And so when you go to this like 24/7 member support center that we've built out, to me, what I have found is that running a shared housing house, or renting out by the room, if you don't use Padsplit, is like you're just inheriting all these challenges and like lack of a playbook of how to respond. All this
Yeah.
is like how quickly can I respond to these issues, normally mitigates this like massive unraveling at a house. But when you neglect those and you're just like, oh my gosh, please go away, please go away, please go away, or I hope these things solve themselves. People are people, and what they really want are like endpoints or like decisions that they can make. And what we've really done well is built a support system, policies, triage, 24/7, intake to just like handle those things immediately and mitigate a lot of issues downstream. So to summarize that, what I'd say is that um, we qualify, we still screen. Hosts can
And
do
you guys are
additional
doing all the
screening.
customer service too, Adam. Sorry to cut you. You guys are doing the communication with the guests.
We are, but like the product is as well. And I think what we've also found is like, earlier in the call you made a comment that like Padsplit manages everything. We definitely don't manage everything, but I think we manage the things that make this hard to scale. You as a
Like
host are
communication.
still going to do reactive, proactive maintenance. If there's large tenant or member issues that come up, like we are a marketplace. I can't go solve those, but what I'm going to provide to you as a host is a playbook of how to like work through this, and I'm going to be locked armed with you as we go and solve this thing together. But you as a property owner have to make these decisions. And so,
So like,
uh,
are you talking about? Hang on a sec. Are we talking about like if there's a leak in the faucet, or are you talking about something else even further? Like we go deeper where 2 tenants are arguing with each other. Like, can you talk about those 2 separations of things?
yeah,
Like, if
yeah,
2 tenants are arguing, they're going to go to you because you're essentially going to be the right, or
they
is it going to go to
will.
the?
They will. So it depends. Like they depending on how like active you are as a host. There's some hosts that just like want to handle those things. There's some hosts that will just let that come to Padsplit, and Padsplit will mitigate those for the most part. I think it's like it always follows like the 80/20 rule. We can mitigate 80% of issues. There are some member issues that will rise to you as a host because you're the property owner. But what we're doing is mitigating that, getting to an endpoint with those members, or if I can't, I'm engaging you as a host and a host, and I'm going to have a playbook for you as a host on how to like walk through the scenario that's in front of you.
Yeah.
Again, it's
Yeah.
like, it's very small amount of issues that we see in this. It's going to happen to you as a host, because you're managing more people now. Like it is a little more work, but it is significantly more income. And so what we're trying to do is maximize, or, change the velocities of those two. Where like I can maximize my income while not having the same kind of velocity of the work I need to do. Because otherwise, like, just do long-term rentals if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
But our playbook allows for the mitigation of that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring that up because, and I hope everybody listens to me when I'm saying this. When you run any properties or in real estate, you're going to have to get your feet wet and you're going to have to deal with issues that come. In fact, I just had a call today with a student of mine who's in my academy. She's like, I have a corporate housing client. They're paying $7,500 a month, which is freaking amazing.
Yep.
These clients I want out of my house because they brought a dog, and that's against my policy. And the first thing that I said to her was like, this is what renting properties to people is going to be about. Yes, we're getting paid more. Yes, like you're always going to have somebody that doesn't do the rules, especially when it comes to pets. If you don't allow pets, people are going to try to get them in. It's just like real estate 101, like the most basic thing. Like, and then my conversation with her is like, how do we keep your client happy and then the person that they're talking to happy? And she's like, I don't want to get involved. I want to kick them out.
Yep.
Anyway, long story short is that if you're in real estate, you're going to have to deal with stuff. And the reason why I was bringing this up is because some real estate investors are like, I don't want anything to do with anything. But in reality, you're still going to, even though you don't want to deal with anything, there's still going to be a property management company that reaches out to you and says, hey, Jess, this is going on. Like, you got to you're going to have to deal with it. So, and I always want to make sure I caution everybody, just like we just started this off with, like, have an exit strategy from day one. Here's an exit strategy. Yep. You're dealing with real estate. You're dealing with people staying in a property. Guess what they're going to do? Put holes in the wall, bring pets there. They're going to have them when you don't want them there. It's just part of the game. It literally is. So
we are not immune to any of those things you talked about. I think what I've heard feedback on, which is awesome to hear, is like we're just kind of in it with you, and like we take this really seriously. We're trying to solve this and create this new, asset class for the future. And like, if I don't know the answer, what I do know is that we have a team of 160 people within Padsplit that believe this is the future, and we're constantly trying to think about this stuff and solve it. But yeah, we're not immune to any of those things. It's going to happen to you. It's a question of like when, and do you have the right support, and do you have the right systems in place to handle it? And I think that's what we provide.
Got it. Yeah, I think you're right on that. And again, for me, like I would be like, I know exactly what I'm getting myself into with real estate, but I've been doing this for 9 years, and I think a lot of times newbies that come expect everything to be sunshine, roses, and a buttercup, and it's not that way.
I wish it was.
So yeah. So okay, so I want to dive into something else, and maybe you can help me with this. So we've identified the property. We talked about the numbers already. We talked about what somebody can make. We talked about how you guys have that 80-20 approach where you're still involved, but you're not necessarily, you're holding our hands. You're not necessarily, and you're guiding us with the playbook, but we're not necessarily doing everything on our own, which we kind of are though, to a certain degree, but we have your assistance unless for some reason I need to pop in. You guys are collecting rent. You guys are doing background checks. So you're doing all those things on your own. What is the typical charge for something like this? Can we get into the numbers?
Yeah, so we've recently updated our fee model to support for a few reasons, but really to support like long-term tenure and investment within hosts, and seeing the portfolios that our hosts have built over the last 4 years, holding these assets for a long time. We've built in a model of a booking fee plus a reduced rate. To allow people to make significantly more money as they manage these properties over time. So we have a 10-day booking fee. So we'll take the first 10 days of a stay, and then we are 8% after that.
8% after that. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So that's pretty much on par with like a traditional property management company, which is anywhere between, I've seen 10 up to 13%, which most of them are usually about 12. That's what I've been seeing a lot lately is 12.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. And you guys are doing the background checks. You guys are doing all those things. Here's another question that I have, and this is something I get asked often about Padsplit. Say right now, we'll talk about my property for an instance. We have a 3-2 here. Do you guys help find people that will put up walls and do those things? Like if I don't know anybody in my market, do you guys scout those out?
What's been so cool about the iteration of this over the last few years is we've now have ecosystems built around Padsplit in each of our markets. Frankly, like your community, they can all be part of this ecosystem. We have a lot of people that come to us that have never that are new to shared housing, or maybe potentially new to real estate, or they're new to that market. Like we have a lot of people that have invested into different markets and are looking for ecosystems in each of those markets to build. And so what I'm proud to say is in each of our markets, we have vendors that fit these categories. Now, maybe they're not the best vendors. We're still sorting through more, but like as we've iterated in each of our markets, we keep finding more people. We know who's the best, and we'll continue to refer those people out or build longer term partnerships. But we now in a lot of our markets have people that are building books of business around supporting Padsplit clients, right? And I think to me that what gets me the most excited, where I'm not having to sell Padsplit, and frankly, I don't sell it as well as our vendors that do it all day long. We have people that do last mile staging and know the photography super well. We have people that know how to underwrite properties and help new investors or experienced investors like acquire new assets. We have awesome GCs in all of our markets. We have developed different partnerships across the gamut of like purchasing, rehab, last mile, and management. And so, we have all that in our core markets, in the core markets we're in. And so we're not everywhere. Maybe that's a quick distinction we should get into.
Yeah.
Like we're in Atlanta, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Miami, Baltimore, Philly, DC, Raleigh, Charlotte, Kansas City, New Orleans, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, Vegas, Phoenix. Don't make me repeat that again. You should go to our sites and you'll see where they're at. But we're looking to continue. We'll look to continue to expand markets as we grow. But those 18 markets where we're currently focused, we have ecosystems built out. Some are more mature than others. Atlanta is our largest market. We have 5,400 units here. And so we know and have a lot of data in this market versus call it Phoenix is only a year old. But Phoenix, as of 2 weeks ago, was 100% occupied and we had 0 rooms available to book. And I think we're going to hopefully cross, 400 or 500 rooms in that market in the next few weeks. So anyway, different maturities in each market.
Yeah, I love that you guys are in those markets, and it sounds like you guys are in expand. I've been bothering you about California for the longest time, and I can't wait for you guys to come here because we have a huge housing shortage. And just so you guys know, Adam said potentially by the end of the year here, Adam. If not, I'm going to have to call Atticus myself. Give me a cell phone number. I'm going to reach out to him. Atticus, coming after you, man. You got to come out to California. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the regulations around this, because this is something that a lot of people get freaked out about. I'm in California, which is also why I'm in short term, because I don't want to deal with tenants sometimes. So the long term, this is not a favorable state. And it sounds like you guys are mainly in more of the red states that are going to allow people to have, I mean, I guess you're kind of in a little states over there too, but let's talk about this. Let's do a quick rapid fire on the legality when it comes to this. Like, people get freaked out. Maybe this is just a California thing. People get freaked out about people not leaving and squatting. Like, I've never had that happen in any of my properties that I short and midterm rent for the last 9 years. So is that not going to happen? I'm sure at some point in my life it will. Because what can happen will happen to a certain degree. So can you talk about that and maybe give a little bit of, let's have a soft landing for people that are worried about those kinds of things happening?
Well, I mean, what I'd go back to, and just for reference, like, we want to be in California. It's a chicken or egg thing, and depending on the commitment of your community or other communities, I think we'll launch there. There's a massive need for it. We have a program called Padsplit Anywhere, where we allow hosts to just list properties anywhere, right? And we're leaving the marketing up to you, because that is where we've dedicated marketing to these markets. That's where we feel really confident in. We feel confident in a lot of other markets, but we just don't have the ability to go everywhere right now. But we have a property in Oakland, California. I think it's an 8-bed. It's been fully occupied. It booked in 2 weeks, and it's 8 or 9 bed, and it's been fully occupied. And I think the host is very, very happy. I think the feedback I get from, I'll go to this risk profile. I think of any new product is you have these early movers, and then once people feel comfortable with that, and even the fact that we have 11,000 units on, more people are oh, okay, well, this is the thing. I can do this now. We're entering that next phase. But what I've heard, especially I think this host in California, is look, I deal with this anyway. There's nothing you can teach me about my policies and the worries that I don't already deal with. This is just what I believe in and what I want to operate to generate the yield that comes with this, and like kind of the risk that I'm taking in doing that.
Yeah.
So I would say like we still operate under landlord tenant under rights. We go through evictions. I think what we have found is we do week by week collections, so we just find those issues a lot earlier on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like if someone can't pay, we are guiding towards resources for zero interest loans to housing support, funding in each of our cities, to additional jobs. Like we're trying to provide that, but we're finding it out in a 2 week period because of the cutoffs and the week by week billing and collections that we do. So we just mitigate a lot of that downstream. But I don't think, I mean, you're not immune to any type of real estate piece, and I think like I don't know what will happen in California in that way, right? In this particular example in Oakland, if all 8 people decide to stop paying and squat, and they have to go through 8 evictions, like will that occur at some point in California? Like sure, but I think that would also happen in Atlanta here too, and I think like I haven't seen it happen. We've gone through evictions. We've had houses that have had multiple evictions, right? And it hurts, but I still have other people in the house that are paying, right? And I think that's the piece that we don't really talk about that often, is that when you go through an eviction, is whether it's maybe midterm or long term or heck even short term, with that one example in Los Angeles where someone squatted for over a year or what it was,
Freaking
like
nuts.
yeah, like you still are mitigating your risk by having other people at the property that are paying. And frankly, I just don't agree that like everyone wants to go through an eviction or squat. Like you really ruin your housing chances for the future. You know what I mean? So it's not like people are just trapped in a corner and don't really have other places to go or and so that's why they're choosing to do that. And so I think what we do is we help mitigate that up front, and we always will. But we're not going to solve I think those policies are in place for particular reasons in each state. And like, I think you're going to need to abide by those, and you're either going to accept that risk or not. But they're certainly not changing. They're not going away, and people are just going to navigate. They're just going to navigate them. Like I'd be shocked, right, if people aren't doing shared housing in Los Angeles right now. Like I know they work, as my wife lived there for a certain amount of time and was in shared housing. So I know it's happening, right? And so I just think that risk they're going to take on their own.
Well, I look at it this way too, even like dorm rooms. Like my daughter's in San Diego State University right now, and she has a room. And
Yeah.
hardly has any credit. She's 20 years old. Like that would be an ideal client, would be somebody that's 20 that she makes money now. She has a job. She probably makes 2x with the long-term rent, what the rates would be in San Diego. And that would be an ideal, I think. Do you guys take people that have not necessarily they're just starting off, like they're just getting their credit together? Does that help them too? Do you help give them
Yeah.
credit?
I often don't talk about that or forget to, but we partner with the Zuzu, and we report positive credit payments. And so our average member increases their credit score by 87 points.
Dude, I love that.
I mean, again, like all of this stuff is really providing an asset for a population that makes money, but just doesn't have access to housing. It's not like, and that population is really large. And so it's like, again, people that have good backgrounds make money, just don't have a place that they can like qualify for. And it's a large population. So we work with that all the time, and we improve credit scores, and it's one of the offerings that we have.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're getting down to the last of this conversation. There's a couple things that I wanted to ask you. With short-term rental regulations hitting hard in a lot of cities, states, municipalities all over the U.S., and this has been kind of my angle, my play, and I'm curious to see, because I think Padsplit serves as an alternative to those people getting hit. Dallas right now, we'll use Dallas as an example. Dallas is being slammed with short-term rental regulations. In fact, I have probably 3 or 4 emails a week from people that are in Dallas that are like, Jess, I'm losing my money. Like, I can't sell my house right now. The prices of the homes have actually dropped here. I'm not going to make as much money. I can't short-term rent anymore. So like I need a midterm rent. Or people like, I'm midterm renting now. I haven't got a client yet. They're not doing the outbound calls like I do, They're just listing on Airbnb and waiting for people to get, like, what a perfect freaking alternative to, like, are you seeing that a lot right now happening in some of these states or cities that are being slammed by short-term rentals?
Massive. I mean, like, think about, the call to action to those people in Dallas is just go pad split your house. It's likely set up well enough with like the furnishings already, your view as a host. I can convert a few additional rooms. I can list it quickly because I already have photos, and I can generate income. at the same, if not larger amount than short-term rentals. And I'm housing people in my community, and there's a large demand for it. So there's your
Mhm.
call to action. But yeah, we're seeing it in a lot of places. I mean, I think for reference early on, like our funnel from like first contact to like listing, so like that conversion piece was almost 150 days, and that's because people were doing massive rehabs. Last quarter, I think for us it was like 40 to 50 days, meaning that like I think we're just that whole population, and we have some large investors in Phoenix market and frankly all of our markets that are just saying, hey, I want to diversify my short-term rental. I'm overexposed here. And like, I love Airbnb. I travel. When I travel, I take Airbnb. I think like vacation rentals will always have a place. What we have found is that people have bought a lot of properties in certain areas or communities that just aren't right for short-term rentals, and they're not seeing the results. And so we're a perfect fit for that. Like, convert it to a pad split. I feel very confident in all these major markets that there's an access issue, there's a supply issue, and there's a number of people that are just looking for this type of housing, and you will be very successful. So no, we've seen a lot, and in a lot of our marketing as well, the conferences we go to, like we're converting a lot of short-term rentals that are just not doing well, right? Like I think Airbnb in general, like again, I love it. There's certain assets that just don't fit well anymore, or had a lot of people that were just following the herd of, hey, this is going to work for me. I'm going to have a nice property in this location, not thinking deeply about it. And we're a good exit for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Again, I think that going back to what we even started this conversation on was if you don't have an exit strategy from day one, you're going to put yourself eventually in a really bad position. I've seen so many investors, including myself, that I bought property that I thought would work well.
Yep.
That ended up didn't work well. We got regulated in one market. Luckily, I was already midterm renting there. But man, if you don't have exit strategies from day one, and you're not thinking intuitively like a solid investor typically does, where you're being very intentional about what you're doing. And if my midterm doesn't work, I now have this exit strategy. I can rent by the room. I can use Padsplit. There's a bunch of different options. And I think right now we're in this age and time where we can have different options. And what's worked in the past isn't necessarily going to work in the future. And
Yep.
that's what I want everybody to really think about now as we're starting to round this conversation up, is that what's worked in the past isn't necessarily going to work in the future. And we're seeing that happen now. Like, people are buying properties at higher interest rates and they're stuck. They can't sell. They're at a loss already. They're renting at a loss right now. I know people that are reaching out to me saying, hey, Jess, I'm negative $500 a month with long-term rental. Well, dude, go pad split. Like, go
Yep.
freaking do something else. There's other alternatives, because what's worked in the past isn't going to work from the future. And I know I said that 3 times already, but I really want people to understand that, because it's just like there's always this reversion of like, well, that worked before in the past. Well, that worked before. We're like, dude, no, we're in a different time. Like, we're
Yeah.
seeing unprecedented times now. We have to maneuver in those sense. We have to be adaptive. We have to skate to where the puck is going. And I, just like you, believe that Padsplit will be the future of lodging, will be the future of staying, will be the future of housing. People will talk about it in the future. And again, I don't attach myself to certain companies and things unless I actually feel that there's a positive impact that I feel that will come from them. Again, I do believe you guys over at Padsplit are doing that, man. So any parting words? Where can people get a hold of you, Adam?
We'll just go to padsplit.com if you're a host, and go through our qualification and sign up flow, and someone will reach out to you. Either you can book a call immediately, or someone will reach out to you to learn to run, understand your portfolio, your goals, and help you get into a pad split. Um, so no, just go do that piece. The one item I'd add to what you were saying is the trend of this now, and the number of people that are just looking for rooms. We're just guiding all of that traffic to your listing. So instead of you
Right.
going and doing this on your own and posting in all these areas, and then someone leaves and I got to repost and all these things, what we do is like we're driving traffic of everyone that's looking for a room to our marketplace and to your listing. And that trend is only increasing. So all the items that you just talked about of like having this opportunity or exit, or I'm losing money, I need to think about something differently. This is not as risky as it used to be, and we've solved those 3 tenets of co-living or shared housing that make it possible for you to go scale. So if you're down month over month, or I have a short-term rental that's not performing, or I have some gaps in my midterm rental, or whatever it may be, yeah, go to petsplit.com and learn more about how you can convert underutilized space, generate more revenue from that. But I think, capture a demand segment that no one's building for. Like, be on the forefront of this. There's enough people in each of our markets that are looking for housing. Just house people in your market. That's the call. That's the call to action. Is just house people in your market. You can make significantly more. And there's just house your community versus vacation rentals. It's not that difficult.
It's not rocket science, Adam.
It's not rocket science. This has been around for so long. This has been around for 100 years, right? And I think more than that, right? Like, this is how people used to live. You rented a room and you're able to do your work and whatnot. Yeah, it just even rooming houses back in the day and SROs, and I think that shift is coming back, and we're seeing a lot of shifts in from New York City to any market, thinking about, hey, how do I create more affordable housing and how do I create it rapidly? It's not building an 80 or 75% AMI apartment complex that's going to take 4 years to build. That rate is still $1,400 a month in Atlanta. That's not affordable, right? And so, people need housing now. You can scale, and you as a host can put housing on now. You can generate significantly more income and house people in your community. Win, win, win.
Love it. Adam, you said it all, man. Talked about how Padsplit's making moves. They're pushing the new boundaries when it comes to, who's your competitors anyway? Like Furnish Finder, maybe like.
Yeah, I'd say for Furnish Finder, Homeroom, Alcove, Airbnb mostly, if I'm honest. Extended stay motels are some of our competitors, right? It's just like there's zero access to that. And and it's expensive. So we have competitors. I think we're solving it in a slightly different way and empowering hosts to drive experiences. And hosts are just knocking it out of the park and really just elevating the product and providing like an awesome place for people to live affordably. So.
I love it, dude. Well, I'm going to leave some information down below. So if you guys are interested in Padsplit, there's going to be a link down below. I'm officially a partner of Padsplit. Am I allowed to say that?
I was going to say we should have referenced that. I'm really excited to be partnering with you officially.
So I partner with Padsplit, official partnership. In fact, I have a property in Houston that I'm going to be transitioning over. And when you guys are able to do this in California, I'm going to transition some properties and film it and do the whole thing. I want you guys to see what it looks like and give you retrospect. I know people that work with you already. I've talked to several people that are already operating as Padsplits, and they have nothing but good things to say. So folks, if you're thinking about an exit, Padsplit's definitely one of them. If you're hurting right now and your property's not renting the right way, you need to make you need to make ends meet. Padsplit's definitely is a company that can help you do that relatively quick. And they're dealing with the most time consuming parts, but I think is the most important, that they're dealing with just like Adam said, traffic coming to you. And that takes time and energy to put in. So Adam, I appreciate you, my friend. Again, if you guys are interested in Padsplit, I'm going to leave a link down below. Make sure you click on that and let Adam know I said what's up when you guys talk to them over there. So Adam, thanks, man. I appreciate it. This has been awesome. And again, everybody, think about an exit from day one. Please, por favor. Right, Adam?
Thanks, Jesse.
All right. Thanks, guys.